Battlefield is not a good series of games. It is a great series of games. It is one of the most enjoyable experience an FPS player can have. But how is Battlefield meant to be played? The gameplay you're seeing here is from Battlefield Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Battlefield Hardline, and Battlefield 1. The gameplay for Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, and Battlefield 1 is kinda weak because I'm a little bit shit at those games. But I hope you guys enjoy this video regardless of my below average performance. So let's look back at Battlefield 1942. A lot of people would say that was one of the first original, realistic milsim games, due to its large maps, authenticity, and for the time, really good graphics. But I've always seen Battlefield 1942 and Vietnam and 2 and 2142 as arcadey games with large maps. It wasn't until Bad Company 1, 2, and Battlefield 3 came along and blew my mind as to what a shooter could be. At the time, when I was younger and I found Battlefield 3, I played the hell out of it, just like I did with the original titles. I thought the game took a lot of skill. I thought the game took so much teamwork. What I thought was teamwork at the time, I now realize isn't teamwork at all. It was just a bunch of individuals trying to maximize their score by giving people ammo and health, reviving people, capturing points, and getting kills. It was no longer this team tactical game in my mind. It was a game with a lot of variables that as an individual was much more rewarding to do well. When you're playing Call of Duty and there's 12 people, you don't really feel like, okay, yeah, I'm the best out of the other 5 people on my team. But when you're the best out of the other 24 or 63 people, that feels really good. And that's what a lot of people are going for when they're playing Battlefield. Some people are tactical junkies and they're providing suppressing fire and they're playing with their squad and they're checking corners and they're playing it as if it's real life. But is that how Battlefield was meant to be played? I don't honestly know. See, back again to 1942 and the previous Battlefield games leading up to Bad Company, those games were rather arcadey. They were comparable to Battlefront in the same way that Battlefront was comparable to them. And they were competing against other online games, or I guess multiplayer games as they would be called, like Halo Combat Evolved and Counter-Strike. So the goal is not to be realistic, but to just have a mass of stuff. What other shooter has giant continent-sized maps where you can fly planes and drive tanks and snipe from great distances? And if you guys know of some of the shooters that were like that during that time, let me know down in the comment section below. And when I say that time, I mean like 1998 through like 2003. I bet you guys can name a couple. But sticking specifically to Battlefield, after 2142, you see this kind of shift with the Bad Company series to a more realistic scenario. Now, I'm not going to say Bad Company tried to copy Call of Duty because I had a campaign with lovable characters, because I don't think Call of Duty has very many lovable characters, but it was definitely trying to immerse you in something. There was a story, there were characters, and when you're playing online, it tried to push the boundaries of the consoles of that generation, and PCs. It wanted to be the game where you didn't shoot at walls, you didn't shoot through walls, you destroyed walls. There were no animations set up for you to trigger, you were destroying buildings however you wanted. If you want to blow the corner of that building out or you want to knock the roof off, you could do it. It's fucking Bad Company. So that kind of led people into thinking Battlefield's trying to be realistic, because when tank shells hit buildings, they explode in real life, not like in Call of Duty where if you shoot an RPG at a wall, you get a black stain. But if you look at the art style and the way the weapons worked, it really wasn't, again, trying to be realistic. And when I was younger, I thought the idea of throwing down health and ammo packs was awesome. I liked it in the previous games and I liked it in Bad Company. I thought it was teamwork, but again, I think, personally, that it doesn't really cater to teamwork, because what it's doing is it's giving the other player a steady stream of XP and score. But I would say even more so than previous games, your ability to throw down health and ammo, use your rocket launcher, your repair tool, spawn on your squad mates, made it feel more like a team-based experience. This was a team tactical shooter. And if you watch old Battlefield Bad Company videos, people are saying this game is realistic. This game is not like Call of Duty, it is a realistic game. A realistic game, a tactical game, whatever they wanted to call it, whatever buzzword would work, it was used. Now, if you were to tell me Bad Company is a realistic tactical team-based game, I would not argue with you because you wouldn't be 100% wrong. But let's now go into Battlefield 3 and 4, two of my favorite first-person shooters of all time. There is no arguing that Battlefield 3 and 4 were trying to be realistic, immersive, breathtaking experiences. But how did that affect the way it was played? Well, Battlefield 3 and 4 brought on a lot of milsim guys, and they started turning it into a milsim. Oh, but they started doing that in Bad Company too, and my friends did it in 1942. Yeah, okay, I get it. And let's not even get started on the mod support of the original Battlefields that made it even more realistic and hardcore. But Battlefield 3 and 4 brought that realism, that kind of immersive gameplay to consoles and the average player. The guy that sits and plays Modern Warfare 2 going for tactical nukes all day is now able to play a game with continent-sized maps, vehicles, realistic bullet behaviors, and some of the best graphics gaming's ever seen. I've talked to people that say that Battlefield 3 and 4 overwhelmed them with the amount of customization, the size of the maps, the amount of things you can do to your vehicles. It is an overwhelming experience. And that's what makes Battlefield great, not just good. It makes you want to play, and it makes you want to get immersed into the combat. And it brought on people playing it in a way that was tactical and more close to reality. It was more immersive and intuitive than ever. You could go up to a rock, bipod your LMG, and mow down enemies with little to no recoil or bullet deviation. It encouraged you to bipod a sniper up on a roof, prone, which was not a thing in previous Battlefield games, at least the Bad Company series. Wait, could you prone in the original games? I honestly can't remember, it's been so long since I played them. I think I remember proning in the Battlefield 2, I could be wrong. But for sure, in 3 and 4, you could prone on a roof with a sniper with a bipod and shoot at people at 800 meters or farther. The highest zoom scope in Battlefield 3 was a 12 times. Battlefield 4 said, haha, fuck that, and added a 40 times. It was able to be played. These games were able to be played however you wanted them to be played. There were aggressive sniper rifles and more campy ones. And it was all about your role as a soldier and how you want to play. Aggressive engineer? Maybe you want to play as an assault with a grenade launcher instead of a med pack? A sniper to sit in the very back of your spawn and pick people off at the enemy team spawn? Or maybe a sniper that's supposed to move up with his squad and take people out at mid to long range. These games were overwhelming to people because they had so much to offer. There was so many things you could do. And I believe that Battlefield 3 and 4 was how Battlefield was meant to be played from the start. Although there's arcadey elements and even some RPG-like elements if you really think about it, it's about you. It's about you as a soldier, as an individual player, and how are you going to help your team? How are you going to support your team? The fact that 40 times scopes and bipods and rangefinders are a thing in Battlefield 4, or in Battlefield 3 you could put a 6 times scope or an 8 times scope on a shotgun, put slug rounds, and actually lob them at decent distances. The game basically said, how do you want to play? You can do it, guarantee it. Then came Hardline and Battlefield 1, and I'm grouping these together because they're the two newest Battlefield games, and they feel, whoops, don't get mad at me, they feel very similar. And I think that's mostly due to just the improvements that they've done to the Frostbite engine, how smooth it is, how smooth it runs, but also in how it's played. Now, I'm not going to be talking about all of the equipment and things in these games, because they're for Hardline, it's pretty much the same as 4 and 3. It's at least the average between 4 and 3. And then 1 is more in line with Bad Company or maybe the original games. You can change your sight, you can put a bayonet on or take it off. Your revolver can have a higher zoom on the sights, I guess. And Battlefield 1 is not really about customization, but both these games were about throwing you into combat. Now, I know a lot of people are going to debate this with me, but I have played enough of Battlefield 1 to get this opinion. I know a lot of you guys know that it's not my favorite game in the world, but I've ranked up 31 times in it, and I have almost every weapon unlocked except for some of the shotguns in the assault class. And I have to say, Battlefield Hardline and 1 are played with this kind of battle of attrition. They're both fast, hectic games, but where you find the disconnect with Battlefield 1 and Hardline that's very, very important is something that's very simple. It's not the fact that it's World War I, it's not the fact that it's cooler than Call of Duty. No, it actually is very, very simple. Battlefield 1 does not have suppressors or an active minimap. Unlike Battlefield Bad Company 1, 2, Battlefield 3, 4, and Hardline, you firing your gun does not show up on the minimap, and there are no suppressors for the first time since Battlefield 2. This takes Battlefield 1 into even more of a hectic style of gameplay. You have less information to deduce where enemies are, you have less ways to hide yourself, and it's much harder to survive. The weapons overheat, have low magazines, high recoil, and a lot of spread. The idea of going on long kill streaks is almost completely out of my mind when I play Battlefield 1, and I try to completely focus on just playing the objective and making the enemy team's life harder, by using AA guns, rifle grenades, and fixed gun placements to keep their vehicles and infantry down. So where is this video going, and how is Battlefield meant to be played? Well, unlike Call of Duty, unlike Halo, unlike other franchises, Battlefield has been played very differently throughout the years. You have the more arcade style in the beginning, you have the pseudo-tactical with the Bad Company series, you have the more tactical 3 and 4, which are my favorites out of all of these in case you were wondering, and then Hardline and 1, the more hectic, the more throw you into a battle and have bullets flying past your head all the time 24/7. So you're saying all the games play differently, this video is a waste of time? Not necessarily. I find it kind of interesting that people still look at Battlefield 1 like it's some tactical team-based experience, when I honestly find it to just be this game of attrition. Wearing down the enemies, but you're not really supposed to survive. See, in Battlefield 4, you can put a suppressor on your assault rifle, stick to the outsides of the maps, hit the objectives from interesting flanks, and then leave like a ghost. And that's why in Battlefield 3, 4, and Hardline, I can go 30 and 11. Whereas Battlefield 1 is more kill, kill, death, kill, 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 death, death, kill, 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 death. It's attrition. It's pushing and pushing and wearing them down, you know, dulling the knife. Each Battlefield game plays differently in its own right, but it'd be hard to argue with me if I said the last 2 Battlefield games have been more fast-paced and hectic and not as slower paced, not as tactical, which is a really cute buzzword, I know. So I genuinely believe that the developers want you to play each of their titles differently. They want you to play Battlefield 1 differently than 4 and Hardline. They want you to play Battlefield 3 differently than the Bad Company series. And if you go back and play the originals, they definitely want you to play those a lot differently. Instead of consistency and knowing what you're going to get, like I would say with Call of Duty or Halo, Battlefield's kind of an oddball. Hardline was drastically different than 4 just in terms of pacing, and 1 is different than 4 and 3 and the Bad Company series in terms of its pacing. So how is Battlefield meant to be played? In summary, depends on which one you're playing, and depends on who you are as a person, a player, and a virtual soldier in one of the greatest franchises of all time. If you stayed till this point in the video, then I will be more than happy to hear you out in the comment section below. If you disagree with me, you want to add something, or maybe you just have a completely different idea of how Battlefield's meant to be played. I know a lot of people think Battlefield's just supposed to be this tactical, realistic, better than everything game, but I think each of them are very different in their own right, and it's important to look at them as individual games and not just this bulk franchise. And what I mean by that is, not all Battlefield games are tactical, not all Battlefield games are hardcore realistic. Every Battlefield game is different, and you can kind of tell when the developers want to lean a certain way because they've been leaning certain ways with the original games, and the Bad Company series, 3 and 4, and Hardline and 1. You can see the shift in what they want to do there. So, but anyway, if you have your own opinions about that, go ahead, leave them down in the comment section below. You can call me an idiot. I know the Battlefield community is really upset. They get really upset when somebody tries to tell them about their game. But I've been playing Battlefield for years. I've been playing it since I was like 8 years old. So I've been playing it for quite a while. But sometimes I explain things poorly, so give me feedback, and I will see when I see you. If you like this video, leave it a like. If you didn't, dislike it, and I will see you when I see you. This outro is terrible. Goodbye!